What's up, guys? It's time for that Monday check-in. Before we get into what we're going to talk about in this video that everybody gets on me about every bloody week, just check out how the week went. I don't have anything else for the intro. Alright, friends. So, you got your usual bit of clips. I will say the last 2 days have been a struggle. As you noticed on Saturday, that was my fault. I waited too late. It had been raining off and on. It had been really windy. It had been cold. And you're like, Dawn, where the heck are you? That those are your conditions. And so I was trying to wait for a decently clear part of the day, and next thing I knew, it was almost nighttime. So by the time I actually got set up and got going, the rain started and it was dark. So I couldn't really record anything, which is why I just threw in that quick clip of sort of what my setup looked like that day. And then today, which is Sunday, I've had all kinds of problems. Today was supposed to be a Kempo day for P90X. I only actually did about 20 minutes of the Kempo. That's because I started out with the app, and even though the app is supposed to allow you to have offline downloads, I noticed that it has a lot of trouble sometimes if the internet connection goes out, just even starting the app. Now, if you have the app already started, a lot of times it'll let you play your offline download. Well, eventually I gave up on even using the Beachbody app for Kempo, and so I went and got my DVD set out. I got my DVD player out. I was ready to do my Kempo. And it got about halfway through before it wouldn't play anymore. And I think I remembered that was one of the DVDs that got damaged when I was strictly doing DVDs before. So the DVD failed me, and I was like, I can fight with the DVD player and the app and the computer and my internet connection for another half hour, or I could just do something else. And so what I ended up doing was I pulled out my fitness ball video, and I did it was a 25-minute routine that was just the fitness ball video. So in combination, it should have came out to about like maybe like 45 minutes or something like that of some sort of exercise. And that was just how I handled it today, because I was like, there's too much going on. The weather is really fighting me. My internet connection isn't happy right now. And that's also what happens at campsites. That's why I prefer having some sort of hard copy thing offline. And in this case, I had to substitute my exercise, but I did it with a DVD player and a DVD, because even the offline download option for the app ultimately failed me, and I wasn't able to use it. So that's all I got to say about exercise this week. The last 2 days have been a little bit difficult, and not great as far as like getting it done. The rest of the week was fine. It was great. So yeah, that part's good. So now everybody, every week, almost, it seems like, especially since the early weeks have passed, have some variation of the 80-20 rule, which is like, weight loss is 80% diet, 20% exercise. So there's that thing that comes up every week. People just generally say you're not going to make any progress unless you change your diet or some variation of that. And a lot of it seems to come from the assumption about what I eat, not actually knowing. I'm going to clean my glasses. They're really horrible right now. And because nobody actually knows. Like, very early in this journey back in Oregon, early into the COVID-19 situation, I talked a little bit more about my diet because it was more about things I was trying to cut out. Like, I knew for a fact I ate at 7-Eleven way too much. I was going to fast food places way too much. And I knew those things were happening, and that's because also, like, I was in a minivan. I did not have a permanent countertop set up. I had to dig my stove out from behind my bed every time I wanted to cook. I could have made it work, but a lot of times it was just so much work to make food in the van that the temptation to go to a fast food place or stop at the 7-Eleven and get whatever was convenient was really, really easy for me. I definitely was drinking way too many sugary drinks. I've hit that temptation a lot on the road too while I was driving. It's just like the temptation to just stop, and all these places have water, but I have this thing in my head where it's like, there's water in my van, I'm not buying water. And so, like, I fight the idea of buying, like, water, but yet I'll pay for bubbly water, which makes no sense. But anyway, so I face that temptation a lot more on the road also because, like, you're driving all day, you're not really settled. Like, the last 2 days at the campsite, I've had, like, no problem, like, popping open a stove. And so you're always fighting sort of this environment. And so I like to keep my diet situation flexible to the environment, to the situation, without falling back into bad habits like living off of potato chips and energy drinks, or like running to fast food places because it's easy. For this particular trip, since I've left California, which has been a while now, I have had Subway a couple of times. And usually Subway filled me up so much, it was really the only meal I had that day besides my morning breakfast, as it were. And for breakfast, I usually have a cup of tea. I'm like obsessed with tea. I usually have a cup of tea at night as well. In fact, I went out and bought some chamomile tea. Is that how you pronounce it? Chamomile tea, on purpose, because I was like, it's better to drink that at night than some of my other teas, especially because I don't drink coffee, so I drink caffeinated tea. So I'll have like an English breakfast, or I'll get the green tea with, how do you pronounce it? Matcha, whatever. Let me grab my tea. So a lot of times in the morning, and this is very conveniently on my countertop, I'll have like, I don't always get this brand, but this is a matcha green tea. Or I'll have this English breakfast. I also like Irish breakfast because, like, they're good teas for the morning. They're just a little bit of caffeine to get me going through the day. What I hate is when I go places and they don't have caffeinated teas. I'm like, the reason I drink tea, it's from our caffeine. That's not true. Right now, I also have a organic cinnamon apple one, but I'm honestly not drinking this one that much. It's kind of just, I've had this since before Oregon. That's how slowly I'm drinking this stuff. I'm finding right now I'm not really into the sweet teas. And why I like tea better than coffee is because when I used to drink coffee, and I've gotten a couple of lattes on the road actually, then I'll want like milk in it. Like, I can't drink plain coffee. I can drink plain tea, but with coffee, I want to sweeten it. I want to put milks in it. I used to do coffee and those like sweetened creamers like all the time, but it was like half sweetened creamer and half coffee. Because coffee on its own, like, it has negligible calories. It starts gaining calories by the stuff you put in it. So usually in the morning, I'm just having like a tea, and it's usually the black or the green with the I'm not going to try to pronounce it. That stuff, that elm stuff. And in the evening, I have either this Sleepy Time chamomile, or I just bought this just because this isn't as sweet as some of the other teas. Like I'm losing my taste for those really sweet teas, but this just has a hint of something. So I have this honey vanilla chamomile tea. So that's usually like my morning and evening drinks. Throughout the rest of the day, I have been grabbing Gatorades occasionally when I stop at like gas stations, or what's that other one? 7-Eleven also has a knockoff brand of, but it's like Gatorade. It's another Gatorade like drink. So I have been kind of falling to those. I've had a few ginger ales during the road trip. Once because my stomach was legitimately upset, and another time because I was like, that ginger ale was good. So I went and got another one. And I felt so guilty about that ginger ale because I have not touched soda in like 6 months. Like I don't drink soda, not diet soda, not zero soda, not soda. Like I have not touched any type of soda for 6 months. Except for those couple of ginger ales that I've had in the past couple of weeks. But I really do like ginger ale and ginger beer, and it's just, I think it's something I can make occasionally because I said, okay, Dawn, you've done your ginger ale thing, you went a little overboard, stop. So like, as far as beverages are one of those things I consider tricky calories because we're so busy attacking solid foods sometimes. We sometimes forget, how many calories we can be drinking in a day. And I know like the end all be all isn't just calories because it's about calories and nutrition. Because like a salad in most cases is very nutritious because it has an assorted amount of vegetables in it and usually other stuff. So it has an assorted amount of our macronutrients. And when I say macronutrients, for people who don't know, we're talking about your proteins, your fats, and your carbs, which are your primary nutrients. And then the other ones are called, it's macro and what's the other nutrient called? Anyway, but those are your three like big macros that your body uses as fuel and to like keep itself going so you don't die. It's what it uses for energy and all these other things. And a good salad has an assortment of things. And so in general, it's not a blanket rule that because it's salad it's good. It has a nice assortment of macronutrients. Now, where people get in trouble with salads is what they put in them. And so, like, if you drown it in ranch dressing, you could still argue that all the nutrients are there. I mean, they didn't go away, but you've just negated it with something that's not so great in the grand scheme of things. And also, when you go to fast food places, a lot of times, like, they're throwing, like, sometimes they might throw chicken in there that's, it's the same greasy chicken. Like, there's all these other things going on that could sort of negate the fact that it does have a lot of nutrients, but there's also all these things that are ultimately going to be bad for you and aren't treating you to the taste of the vegetables themselves so that you feel more invested in eating vegetables. And yeah, so there's a lot going on. I'm not a scientist or a nutritionist. I only know the information I've absorbed from my conversations with nutritionists and from my own independent research. So it's nutritious and all those things, but then the calorie problem also comes in that, the salad without being drowned in ranch dressing, not just a drizzle of a dressing, but being drowned in ranch dressing has become like something that's giving you way more like fat, for instance, than you actually need. Because your macronutrients are defining your calories to a certain extent. So yeah, that's that. I'm not unaware of how food works on a very basic level. In fact, I've taken 2 nutrition classes in college. When you're desperate and you don't have a lot of money, there are compromises you will make because there is a basic survival thing going on. and a basic getting by going on. It doesn't necessarily, there are some cases where it comes from a lack of education. I mean, there's a lot of things I learned about the way my mom ate, which were backwards and wrong thinking. And no offense to her, she was a brilliant woman who did everything she could to like give me the best life possible. But I'm just saying, in general, eventually I learned some of the behaviors she had around food were ultimately unhealthy for me, and some of it was because she was denied so many things as a child that if I liked something, she would overcompensate for it. And so it was like, oh, Dawn likes those Debbie cakes. Well, every time I go to the supermarket, I'm going to make sure that brand of Debbie cake is in the cabinet. And it was very free range as I got older. Like, she trusted that, you know, uh, I don't even know what to say. It was very free range. It wasn't like I had to go, Mom, can I have a Debbie cake? Like, no, it wasn't that. It's like they were there in the cabinet. When I wanted to snack, I could just go get them. It was never like a thing that was controlled so much. And the problem is, I was a boring kid. I was relatively responsible. So my mom always felt like I deserved my little treats. I would say I was a boring nerd. My mom would say, oh, she's a responsible, like, I didn't go out and do like a bunch of crazy stuff when I was a teenager. Yeah, so I guess I'm going out and doing all my crazy stuff now. So we've talked about beverages and what I've done to cut beverages, and we've talked a little bit about, what I've done to cut food in general. So let's just, I'm gonna move this. This needed to dry. It was my dish rag. It was a little bit more damp than I like it to be. So in the morning, I've been having one of these. Exactly one with a little bit of spray butter. No more than that. And what I used to do was have a minimum of 2. Like, I felt like I needed 2. And there was no real hunger reason for it. I was just eating 2. I didn't know how this was going to work out. I used to eat tons and tons and tons of bread. Now I have one of these every morning. And not even every morning, because sometimes I'm not in the mood for this. So what I'll do instead is, last time I wasn't in the mood, I had like 2 mandarin oranges and my hot tea in the morning. And that's usually all I eat in the morning. I don't need a lot in the morning. And I'm finding that's becoming more and more and more true. Like, my ability to feel full and stop eating has gotten progressively better since I started this journey back in Oregon, and honestly slightly before Oregon, because like I started I'm not going to eat fast food and I'm giving up soda probably like the last like month or so that I was in California. I'd already started sort of picking out these steps that I was going to take to sort of live a little bit healthier than I had been living. And so every morning I eat about one of these, and that's it. If I'm in the mood for it. There's times I haven't had anything, and there's times I've had, a piece of fruit. In this case, I've been buying the cuties because they're everywhere. They're easy to buy. And I like getting something with like a covering on it these days, because there's so much misinformation and confusion about COVID right now. And I'm just like, okay. So generally, dinner. Sometimes I get those bagged salads from the supermarket. That's usually 2 meals for me. This is a snack I like sometimes. So we have this organic seaweed. I try not to get too much of these because these are like potato chips. I'll just sit there and eat them. I've had this one sitting around in the van for a while though, but this is a snack that I like. And I'm prepared for people's criticism about this. And let me see. This is a Kind bar that I keep laying around for when I want to snack. And I find when I'm driving, even that causes enough boredom sometimes, depending on what my visual stimuluses are. But if I'm just on a straight road and totally bored, I'll just want to snack. And what I used to do is I would stop at a gas station and just pick up something. Well, having stuff like this in the van is at least like, this isn't as bad as probably what I used to buy, but I'm really picky about my snacks. And especially my granola bars, and that I don't like granola bars with chocolate. I know it's weird. Like real chocolate, I like chocolate like separate from granola bars. I like, but I don't like chocolate in my granola or snack bars like this. Like if it's just like a Snickers bar, which I don't eat anymore, or a Nestle Crunch, which I don't need anymore, that's fine. But I don't like it mixed in this kind of stuff. Like I just don't like the taste. It just doesn't work for me. But this is just caramel, almond, and sea salt. And I really do like these, but they're hard to find because everything I find like this has bloody chocolate in it. All right. Let's see what else we can talk about down here. This is an actual meal, so I'll talk about that in a second. So I have my cherry almond cashews. This is another thing that's good for when I want to snack, because it's really just about the momentum of snacking and filling boredom. And if I can't really beat it, if I can't talk myself out of it and be like, Dawn, you know you're not really hungry, at least grabbing something like this is better for me than other options. And then what else we got here? I can't find, oh, there we go. I was going to say, I have to have one of my Cliff Bars. And this particular Cliff Bar is one of my favorites. I love eating these. Like these, this is one of my favorites right here. Again, no chocolate, just peanut butter crunch. Alright, that covers that. Let's see down here. Now right here, canned soup. I really have a hard time finding soup because there's a lot of soup that's not vegan. I'm not vegan, but my diet is, I'm pescatarian, which basically means I'm base vegetarian with seafood. And so it's really hard finding vegetable because there's so much vegetable that's made with beef broth or chicken broth, and so I have to like read the ingredients really carefully. I know like there's a lot of like misgivings about this, but if I eat this these days, it'll probably be my only meal in the entire day. And so like, yeah, this is something I'll eat as like my one big meal. It'll be just this. Then I have various forms of like brown rice, whole grain rice. Yeah, I usually get them in these packets because these packets are about 2 meals. Like if I get this and cut it in half, it's about 2 meals. Sometimes I'll mix it with like tiki masala in a packet or something like that. I'm all out right now, but I use these a lot. Another problem is I am one person. My food lasts a long time, especially the way I'm eating now. Like I'm eating 1 meal a day. On a day, there might be a chance I'll eat 1.5, maybe 2. I don't count that if you want to count the English muffin in the morning, I eat 2 meals a day. Hot tea and an English muffin in the morning. Sometimes it's some other form of a thing, but hot tea and some sort of solid food in the morning, and then 1 big meal either during the middle of the day or the end of the day. One reason I don't do intermittent fasting, because it's like if I'm hungry in the middle of the day and not the end, I want to go ahead and eat in the middle. If I'm hungry at the end, I want to eat at the end. like I don't want to stop myself from eating because it's not time to eat if I feel hungry. But like I said, this I will mix with other stuff. I'll put other stuff in it, but I do a lot of brown rice. I'm not going to lie. I can do a can of soup. I can do a salad. And if I eat any of these things, it's going to be like 1 meal a day. So let's say I have the bag of salad, which I do in my fridge, and I have this and I got that can of soup. I'm just eating for a week. That covers me for a week. You know, so yeah, so that's what I'm eating on a lot these days. And what I'm trying to do is make sure that I'm going to the grocery store, like as much as possible. Like I've had some Subway on this trip, but that Subway turned out to be my only meal. I was like, that was a lot. I felt a lot of it and the heaviness of it. And the temptation is when I'm driving and not like semi-static, is that there's that ease. I've been driving for like 4 hours. I want to push out another 2 hours before the end of the day. That's that subway sitting right there attached to that Love's Travel stop or that Pilot Flying J. I've had 2 days where I did one of those small personal pizzas. And again, it turned out to be my only meal that day. Because it was just like, I didn't need any other food after I ate that. So yeah, that's basically what I've been eating. And I'm sure there will be various forms of criticisms in the comments. And that's one of the reasons I don't talk about eating on these videos too much, because once you get past the stuff that we know is bad, like we know soda is bad, like any form of soda, like calling it diet or zero doesn't make it better. There's like soda's bad. If you can drink it occasionally or control it in some way, like you can have it. There's a lot of things that are bad that you can have occasionally if you are the type of person that can have it occasionally. For me, I always call diet soda gateway soda, because when I can't find the diet, I will drink the regular. And I know enough about myself to rationalize that and know it. I know that I eat when I'm bored. And so as much as I can, I try to rationalize that in my brain and say, oh, Dawn, you're snacking because you're bored. But when I can't rationalize it for myself, that's when I have the bars, I have the assorted almond cherry thing. Like, having those things on hand is like, okay, I can at least do less damage to myself in this situation that I recognize. It's like when an alcoholic recognizes they have a problem with alcohol, it's not going to stop them from drinking every time. It's going to stop them from drinking sometimes. And so it's always about like, what things can I do to stop this from happening or minimize the damage. I don't buy cakes. I don't buy Oreos, because I know if I'm bored enough, I will eat them. And I'll try to tell myself, oh, I'll just have two. And the next thing I know, the whole pack's gone. So I don't do it. I just don't buy bad stuff. And it's easier because I live alone. In this case, in a van, but it was still the same thing when I lived alone, like in a house or an apartment situation. Like, because I lived alone, I could control it. But when I lived with other people, it was much harder to control. And even just like, I hate to say it, hanging out with people, sometimes the first thing they want to do is feed you. And we are very socialized around that as sort of a kind act. And there's nothing wrong with it. For a lot of people, it's a beautiful thing. You're going to cookouts and barbecues and birthday parties and parties and celebrations, and babies are born, and like, I don't know, all the stuff. And like, so much of these events are built around food. When we meet somebody new, we usually hang out with them in places where there are food, or food becomes involved in some way. So much of socialization is attached to food. And as bad as it is, it almost makes it easier for me to stay away from people, because I fear that moment. I fear that moment of being invited to something that involves food. Because in that moment, that's when my social eating kicks in. Some people have a social drinking problem. I have a social eating problem. And so, like, if other people are having an activity around food, they feel like it's weird when you're not eating, and it will stand out to them. And yes, you can go through the explaining and rationalizing. And honestly, once people understand, they're mostly respectful. But it's such an oddity that it leads to these awkward conversations where you have to be this person that's explaining. And that can be sort of a struggle sometimes. And then on top of that, on the flip side, when you look like me and you say like, oh, I'm going through a health program, people assume that you're still going to McDonald's like 4 days a week, because they're like, oh, well, she's still kind of big, so maybe she hasn't been told about that 80-20 situation where if she just like changed her diet, she'd get magically skinny. She hasn't learned about that, so I need to teach her about that. And that's kind of unfair. The reason why I focus on exercise is because I feel like as a person who exercises, I feel more motivated to be a healthy person. So that 80-20 is irrelevant. As a person who exercises every day, I mentally am going through the steps of going, I want to stay on a healthy path. And that focus makes me not want to go into 7-Elevens as a quick fix, not want to drink as many sugary drinks, not want to buy junk and throw it in the van and then have it there when I have like a snack reflex. The exercise is fueling the type of person who doesn't want to buy junk. So the 80-20 rule is irrelevant to that. And because so many people are sold on, oh, you can eat as much as you want and still lose weight. And those people, not everyone, but a lot of them will go, oh, great. And then they'll lose, like, keto works. You don't have to convince me that keto works. I know people who keto worked. I also know people, a lot more people, who tried keto, were happy with the results and thought, okay, I got my results. Now I can go back to doing what I was doing before. And then they just gain it back. Because they didn't embrace something that's actually going to work with them forever. And that's sort of the path I'm on. If I get stuck as a 280-pound person for a while, but I'm still exercising every day, I'm still eating the healthiest that I know how to eat, and I'm still avoiding those things that I know for a fact are bad for me and bad in general, I am okay with that. Because I know I'm not a sedentary person. I know I'm not sitting on my behind. I know that I am living the healthiest that I can find that will be long lasting. Not this torture I'm putting myself through for some quick result. like that is sort of the back and forth and pull of this. And like I said, once you get past the stuff, like I know if I'm eating everybody knows if I'm eating Debbie cakes every day and I'm just sitting on my behind and I'm not doing anything, that's probably going to show. And more than just like weight, it's going to show in the way you move. It's going to show in the way your body feels. Weight may in fact be a factor, and weight may in fact be a concern. And honestly, there may be stuff going on with my body that I don't know about because of it's been so long since I've seen a doctor, because I haven't had consistent insurance or insurance that I trust is going to be there in the long term. So I haven't really seen a doctor. That is completely possible. There's other like physical medical stuff going on with me that I just don't know about. And I'm not saying that's the healthiest way to approach it. That is the absolute wrong way to approach it. You should definitely, if you have access to one, go see and talk to a doctor. You should, if you have access to one, being able to talk to a personal trainer is amazing. But I'm not going to take blind information off of the internet to a certain extent. That doesn't mean I won't take like recommendations. Like people have recommended stuff. Like I kind of kicked about it, but I was like, I never like use my bands on the van, so I don't need a hook. And then 2 days later, I was using my bands on the van, so that was actually a good suggestion. There's all kinds of stuff that's coming up that has been good suggestions, but there's just a certain level of, unless I've reached a point financially or otherwise where I can actually have a conversation with a nutritionist that is personal and one-on-one and talks about all the things I've learned about myself as a person, as a person who's always been big, as a person who's done Weight Watchers, who's done several exercise programs where I in fact did lose weight and then life derailed me. But what I did learn was a lot about myself, like the fact that I am a boredom eater, like what it means to know when you need to abstain from something versus when you can moderate it. And I am mostly an abstainer. In most cases, I'm like, you know what, I just need to not touch that. And as long as I don't put it in my personal space, there's no reason for me to. And then the temptation comes in with me also being a social eater, because I don't want to feel rude when people offer me stuff. And it's really hard and a struggle. And it's almost easier to avoid social situations than have to be in a social situation and make up some excuse not to eat the thing that they're. which is sad. So yeah, I don't know what else to say about eating. Like I said, the 80-20 rule is irrelevant to me because I feel like I want to be a person who eats better because I exercise. Like those two things just go together in this cycle that is relevant. That's not like, oh, I only need to put in 20% effort because 80% is going to be taken care. Like that, it means nothing. It means absolutely nothing to me. Doing this quickly means nothing to me. And I don't even know what this is because, like, this is I want to live better, which I feel like I'm already doing. It's not about some arbitrary number that I'm trying to reach. And in that case, maybe keto will help you because you can keto your way to that arbitrary number and then you can go into this maintenance phase, which does has a little less stress on it. But I'm not even going through all that. I'm 40 years old. I'm going to be 41 in October. And I just want to stick with something that is consistent for me and realistic for me moving forward until I die. That's it. It's not about reaching some arbitrary number. It's not about like being able to buy smaller clothing sizes. It's really just about feeling better about me, which exercising every day does, which taking fast food out of my diet did, which getting rid of soda did, which drinking mostly water has done. And that is what I'm looking for. Like, I'm not a teenager hoping to impress like the hottest girl in class. If you didn't read my shirt. I don't know if this will turn out backwards or not. I'll see in the final edit. I never know. Sometimes I think these things are going to turn out backwards and then they turn out frontwards. I'm not some teenager trying to impress like the hottest person in the class. I'm not trying to improve my dating prospects. I'm not trying to look impressive on the beach. I'm not trying to look like a supermodel on these videos. I'm just doing me and trying to get healthier at the pace that it happens or physical change happens. Whatever that pace is, it's okay. So this video is much longer than most of my videos, but I feel like this whole food thing comes up a lot. And so I'm like, okay, let's talk about food. Let's get it out the way. If people want to yell at me about what I should and shouldn't be eating, and that's the problem. It's like once you get past like the basics, which is like fast food bad, soda bad, like sugary snacks, not the greatest thing to have all the time. Once you get past that, which we can all universally agree is something you need to reduce or get rid of in your diet if there's too much of it, then you get into all these tiny little things that one person is like, if you do this, it'll be great. No, you need to do this and you need to do that. And once all those people start yelling in your ear about what you should and shouldn't be doing, for me personally, I'm like, okay, it's all going to kill me anyway. I might as well go back to eating everything. Except meat. But I have like a reason I will never go back to eating meat. I handled some chicken in high school to help cook it. High school, and I'm 40 years old. And that was about it for me. Because like, oh, this is what dead animal flesh feels like. For some reason, eating seafood has never bothered me, and I have handled that as dead animal flesh as well. I don't know why, but yeah, the chances of me going back to eating meat is like 0. All right, everybody. Bye. This is such a dumb video. But we finally had a food conversation. Everybody happy now. Bye.